Hi everyone. Today I just want to talk a little bit about chop or Piquan. Chop is connected to the Santi. Santi standing is this sort of practice which I've explained a little bit about before, but it's one of the ways we use to help connect the body. So for the legs, the waist, the arms, and the spine. The spine's really important. So all of these movements, the static movement of the standing, of the Santi, is really what you see in the chop. So if I demonstrate, let's say the first chop movement, if I'm holding it, it's exactly Santi posture. So this is how we practice the Santi. And the important thing is to gradually get an understanding of your body through that practice so that you can feel your posture, you can feel that you're able to sit in your leg, your back leg in particular, and keep your spine straight. And this is useful in all kinds of training, especially the push hands that we do, and of course freestyle. Because if you can't control your own body, if you don't understand your own body, you're not aware of your weaknesses, such as shoulders up, or your spine is leaning, or your hips aren't aligned properly, and you can't sit into them. If your knees aren't correctly aligned, if your weight isn't clearly distributed between the heavy in the back leg and light in the front leg, and if when you're moving, you start moving and your body's up and down and your shoulders rise up, all of these things are weaknesses in your practice. So when you're training, you're constantly paying attention to those areas, those principles, and making sure that you integrate them as so that they become part of what you do. Because normally when you first learn them, you might intellectually understand them and say, yeah, I get it, I understand. But until you can actually do it all the time, until it becomes part of you, they're not really gong fu, as they say. It's not trained skill yet. It hasn't gone deep into your system. So it's only over time. And it might take a long time, but even the time is not the problem, because what we notice, whenever you practice, whatever you do, there's already benefit. So even you're an absolute beginner and you're starting off and you're feeling you're leaning and you're doing all kinds of crazy things, you can't stand for more than a minute, let's say, because that's quite natural. That is good for you. That is part of the training. That is part of the education of the body and the mind. And for you to keep doing it, to continually practice and face those weaknesses, is how you change yourself. So you're using the practice to change yourself. So it's very powerful that way. And the more you do it, you'll notice things like something are very beneficial for your health. Stress, you'll start, even though Santi, we don't particularly say, oh, this is meditation practice, or calming practice. You're not looking for it sometimes, but when you do it properly, you'll find it. You'll actually start to feel, I'm into that kind of state where my mind and my body start to feel very integrated, very connected. And that is part of the meditation aspect of the training. So you're not looking for it particularly, but you will discover it through the training. So the Santi trains up your body in a static way to feel the different forces. The chop form, Piquan, trains in a more dynamic way. So Piquan will have a moving practice. So I'll demonstrate a little bit. So this is a slow version. Now I'll do it a little harder, stronger. So I'll just get my breath back before I start talking. So even though, well, the slow practice corrects your weaknesses, helps you identify them, because going faster is a lot harder to see them. It also trains some leg strength. It also trains your energy and your concentration. It has a lot of benefits, like doing Tai Chi, I suppose, slow motion movements. Then the harder movement, which I'm still recovering from just now, but you're meant to put everything into it. So that trains your whole body, generates a lot more power, and over time, you're opening all of your joints. So doing slow is good, but it doesn't really open your joints. So even Tai Chi has Fa Jing, which is power release. Chen style has a soft form and then a harder form, Po Chui. So they're useful for doing that. That's what they're designed for. But this movement's very simple. So people look at it and think, oh, big deal, supposed to be something special. You could learn it in probably 20 minutes. It wouldn't take long. However, to do it properly, you'll see you won't be able to do it. You'll find so many issues, especially when you're learning it from like someone who knows what the practice entails. Plus, once you do the power generation, Fa Jing, you'll see it's much, much harder than you think. Generating power through these movements, like it looks simple. Obviously, they made this form address certain weaknesses of the body. This force is a really hard force to get, but the form itself has several different forces within it. So it looks like you can't see it. You won't see it. So from this point of view, it's like, of course, it has its roots in Taoism and Buddhism in traditional Chinese culture, and our particular methods do come from a more Buddhist background. However, there's a lot of the classical Chinese Taoist thinking in there in terms of its simplicity. So instead of like making something, having a lot of movement, it's like you refine all of the essential things. Like you look at all of the different forces you need and you put them into one form or to a few forms, and you practice them over and over again until your body can do them, until it changes your body. So if you're really good at it, you'll already have a lot of skills. You'll already be able to use it quite well if you practice, deeply. These things you can keep practicing this kind of form probably most of your life if you want to. There's more and more in it. But it also has many, many health benefits. So when we talk about internal, of course, we need the external first, and that helps to influence you internally and change your body. So internally, you will feel your energy. I don't know when, it depends on your practices, depends on your underlying health issues, but you'll start to notice warmth, tingling, very hot sometimes in the hands, very good feelings as well. So when our system is working well, if our energy is full, then the organs start functioning much better. So people are less unhappy, less grumpy, less, feeling bad about things. So it does elevate everything. It's like everything's working at a different level. It's very different to a lot of other training, like going to the gym and swimming. They give you certain benefits, but still different, still very different. So once you're at a certain point, you just feel wonderful during practice, and then after practice, you feel very peaceful, but very strong inside, and a kind of happiness. There's a happiness that starts to radiate throughout you because of the practice. So the movement looks simple, but it is profound. It has so many benefits. And eventually, if you have a chance, we'll be offering some ways to help people study this later on in some of our releases, so that might be useful. But it's a great practice, a real treasure. But again, something you would easily overlook and think, no, that's nothing special. I'm going to ask Fontaine, my wife, to help with some of a little bit of application. I just want to explain a few things, not too many, but just a couple. So it's Fontaine. So when we do the chop, normally, you saw me practicing, it's quite big. Now, if I'm doing it like that, that's more how you practice it. So you need that kind of openness to generate the long force in the beginning. but gradually the force has got to be more like the whole body. So it's a short force, okay? So it's coming through. When you watch again, it's like we call like a wave force. So it's generated through the whole body, being used. So when you use it, that's the kind of way you need to use it. But bear this in mind, whenever you're fighting, you don't get many opportunities like that. You have to set things up. If someone's arm is there, great, it's really easy to do. But they're moving around, jumping around, you've got to be able to connect with them, with their center. So push hands is another important part of that training. So the chop has many applications, and it can lead to different things. For example, if I show this one, so I finish chop here, and then I can go straight into one of the movements called bund, which is a fist, but slightly different to just a punching fist. So it connects through the body. So you can go from that, or you could go into the drilling fist, which is another one of the 5 forces in this type of whooshing, they call it whooshing practice. So chop is the main one, and that sort of leads into these other ones. So once you understand it, you can easily change from one to the other. But between that, you need to understand push hands. So push hands, there are different routines to practice, and it's mainly to develop sensitivity, strength and power, coordination, so you don't feel overwhelmed by another person's force, right? If you train properly, it looks gentle, and you can train it for a little while in a gentle way, but it does need to have develop the whole body strength. So if I ask Fontaine to help me with that, I'll explain the push-ins aspect. So for example, just to give you an idea, okay, this is the movement, right? If you just do we just do a normal push hands movement. So I push towards you, so you just, so we just do that, right? So here, look, it's relaxed. We're not using much power, right? I'm not trying to use much power, but it's just comfortable. But that movement, once, depending on your opponent and how long you've trained for, can be very, very strong. So if Fontaine braces her arm and makes a fist, you can just move that slightly, So she's here, right? So I'll just give you an idea. Now, picture you're strong, okay? So my hand is here. I'm going to show this first. So, you okay? Right. Hard as you can. Keep your pressure. Keep your pressure. Keep your pressure. So I'll just give you an idea. So she's really bracing herself. We're not trying to make this look like some sort of a setup or something. So when I just use that movement, if I pull back and down, you can see my arm. This is the pressure you develop, right? So it's really from the whole body. So that's what you're doing. So you start to have that pressure. And the pushing motion, so if you do that, like that, brace yourself. So you kind of like, maybe that way, So this movement, so I'm pulling back, so the other movement is going forward. So I'm just using this, but you can see it's, brace your legs, This is your arm. So of course, I'm pushing a whole body, but still, that's the sort of strength you start to develop just with that. Well, you do that. For people who have been practicing for a while, that's a kind of feeling you get. So it's both arms doing that. So it looks relaxed. People go, oh, you're not doing much. You're not doing, like the arms are just waving around. But behind it is the whole body and the tendon. So it's not developing so much like a big muscles, but really working deeper and deeper into your joints and things. So that's kind of what that practice is about. Until you're good at it, until you can practice with someone a lot bigger than you, and you don't feel their pressure, then you sort of then by that time you're ready. So another part of the application is this one. So just keep going on that. So if you also just do like we can do that. So when we move in the drilling fist, you'll see there's a part where coming through, it's too strong. That way. So your whole body comes through. If they keep pressure there, then you change. So that becomes a way of applying chop. So that's ward off. That's also my ward off. But I'm using it with my whole body force behind it. So it would be kind of like moving into them. Can you see that kind of thing? So it's like, especially if there's a gap, I want to move in. Once I feel her pressure's strong, I just change. If her pressure's not strong, obviously you're already in it anyway. So that's some of the ideas behind the drilling fist. The masters, or people who are really good at it, can hit your arms and make you jump, bounce up, like like that, like hitting a ball, making a ball bounce. That's a very high level. It's really almost impossible to stop it. The applications are, you need all of the different things together. So in our system, we have the leg training. The leg training is, usually the low leg training down at about 90 degrees. So you have to get used to moving like that very slowly, moving from one position to another. You need Santi, you need push hands, and you need the form practice. They're usually the 4 pillars that we use in our training. So those things are being offered up in some of the online practices that we've developed, the courses that we've developed. So they are available, but this is just to give you some information about it. So one thing I'll finish on is just to say that if the training system is good, you never really have to worry too much about people getting arrogant. I've never come across that, because first of all, it always finds your weakness. Second, the more you do, the more you kind of see there's a lot more, the more you don't know, sort of thing. So you tend to become more humble. When you meet people who have been practicing a while and they're much better than you, you also realize, it's that's why we call it art, because you can just keep going deeper and deeper and refining things more and more, which are refining on the outside at first, but they actually reflect on you as a person on the inside. So they change you quite deeply, quite profoundly. So this is the kind of the beautiful part of the training. So, people may start thinking, I want to do this as martial art, I want to be able to use it and do all kinds of things. But then after a while you see, that's important for your self-defense, but more important is how you live your life. Are you healthy? Are you happy? Can you defend yourself if you need to? And do no one, using long routines and different techniques. We don't talk about that. We talk about your kung fu is good. So, like one hit, one push, whatever it is, can really make a person go into some kind of shock, can really affect them. That's what kung fu is, what we talk about in terms of kung fu. So, but at the end of the day, you're not really thinking about that. You're not thinking about, well, I'm going to beat these people up. It's really more about you can educate people, you can change people's attitude about things and see into the folly of those sorts of things, being aggressive and hateful and all the rest of it, and really make you stronger, make you elevate yourself and be happier in yourself is the important thing. What others do is what others do. But if you can look after yourself and you're getting stronger and stronger through your practice, that's a good motivation. And that awakening, that awareness is part of the Wu in the name Wu Dao Kung. And the Dao is a method and the Gong is a work. So you need all of those things to really succeed. Hope that was useful.